To tonight's edition of the One Hood Power Hour. I am your co-host Kahari Mosley with my illustrious co-host Miracle Jones, and we have another great show tonight. We will be joined by Kenya Johns, the mayor-elect of Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. So a little bit later in the hour, we will be joined by her to talk about her historic campaign and what her plans are, um, taking at the historical role as the first African American mayor of Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. But before we get to that, we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to do some first takes, and then we also have a special second segment tonight. So, Miracle, before we jump into our first takes, you kind of talk about the agenda for tonight.
Yes, today, like I said, we're continuing on with our mayor's roundtable, talking with mayors who are elected this past election cycle about what their vision is for this region. They call us the Rust Belt, Appalachia, whatever you would like to call it. We want to talk to our elected officials to see what they are bringing to this region, how they are going to be moving us forward, and how are they bringing communities together during these contentious times. As we know, COVID is still here, impacting our communities. And so we're talking to elected officials about what they're working for towards their vision for the future. We're also going to be talking tonight about what's going on at the Pennsylvania legislature. For many people, you woke up this morning, you got a lot of messages, texts, emails, or a lot of bills going forth. The Pennsylvania legislature came back with a force, with a vengeance this cycle, and they are moving bills like bills have not been moved before. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. We're going to talk to the mayor, the mayor-elect, Kenya Coleman Johns, and then we're going to talk about some cool events that we have coming up for you this week. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Kahari. Is talk a little bit more about this past election cycle, what the numbers were, and how it actually showed that people are more engaged in civic engagement now more than ever.
Yeah. From a 30,000 a foot view, we've seen, particularly in Allegheny County, there was a huge increase in turnout compared to 4 years ago. And at the same municipal cycle, in November of 2017, in Allegheny County, 220,000 people participated in the fall general election. In 2019, that number jumped up to 276,000, and in 2021, several weeks ago, we saw the uptick to 301,000 voters in this November election. So you can see it was an 80,000 increase from 4 years ago, and about a 25,000 voter increase from 2 years ago. And in the city election, Ed Gainey got the most votes in a general election of any mayor in the past 15 years, since prior to the Ravenstall administration. Ravenstall had the previous high of about 43,000 in the fall election. Ed Gainey got up to 48,000. So he got nearly 5,000 votes more than Luke Ravenstall did in 2007, when Mayor Ravenstall was running against Mark DeSantis. So very, very incredible turnout. I think almost 30,000 more people than voted in some of the previous mayoral primary elections over the past couple cycles. So tremendous turnout. And one other big story right now is that there's currently a state triggered recount in the Commonwealth Court race for that second seat on Commonwealth Court. Right now, Lori Dumas is about 12 to 13,000 votes ahead of Drew Crompton. That's Drew Crompton right now, and the race is so close it triggered a statewide recount. So we still have a certain amount of time before that race will be called. But as it currently stands, with mail-in ballots Lori Dumas, who's behind Drew Crompton on election night, has now taken the lead by 12 to 13,000 votes. So that is something we're going to continue to monitor in the coming days, to see who's going to pull that seat out. If Lori Dumas maintains her lead, as many expect, that seat will flip from Republican to Democrat, and that will be the other one seat statewide that will flip from one party to the other. So yeah, so those are some of the key stories coming out of this past election day, Miracle.
Yeah, and we knew Pennsylvania was going to be a place where people were going to be focused on. We knew that with the situation with COVID and mail-in voting, that there was some places had drop boxes. Allegheny County did not, so we knew that there were going to be a delay in voting because more people were going to be dropping off at the election office instead of going to drop boxes. So there was going to be a little bit of changeover, but we are very excited to see like participation really was up. A lot of people are very invested in the judicial elections, are invested in the municipal elections, and we're starting to see the grassroots organizations are understanding that civic engagement really does have to be a year round. Unfortunately, a lot of people are used to just doing things 4 years, so we're like, no, elections happen every 6 months, and in some places a little more often than that. And so we're very excited and very happy and very fortunate to see people are really paying attention to what's going on with our courts and what's going on with our municipal elections, because that's what we say. There's an organization, all politics is local, all voting is local, and the local is what really, really matters. And so we want to also take this time to talk about what's going on locally. Like I mentioned, the Pennsylvania legislature woke up today and said, you know what, we're going to run bills and we're going to run as many bills as we can, going through things in committee. And so you may have received some alerts, and we're going to see if John can put the screen up on the board. We are asking people to really engage and to show up and contact their local officials, because, here at One Hood Power, criminal justice is one of our 9 focus areas, and we are really focused on decarceration. And there are 2 bills, HB 1587 and HB 1590. We'll put the links to those in the chat. And these bills would do a couple of things. One, they would reverse a Supreme Court order that said mandatory minimum sentencing is unconstitutional, because it removes the ability for a judge to do a case by case analysis on a specific criteria to see what was happening with the individual when they committed a alleged crime. And what one of the things that these bills would do was actually make it so if you were accused, not convicted of certain gun offenses, you would not be eligible for bail or bond. And of course, we know in Pennsylvania, we have had issues with people being falsely accused, falsely arrested. And so it would basically presume people are a threat to society before conviction, and they would not be allowed to post any type of bail, any type of bond, any type of house arrest or home confinement. They would automatically be kept within uh, detention, prison, well, not prison, a jail facility. It would also create a mandatory minimum sentencing, so that when people were convicted of certain gun offenses, they would all automatically be sentenced to a mandatory with no possibility of parole, no possibility of getting out on good behavior. No, there would be no type of metric, no type of encouragement to take certain classes, to get sentencing reduced. They would automatically just be sentenced, even if they were a first time offender as well. So we're asking people to look up these bills. We have them linked up on our website on here on onehoodpower.org to learn more information. And one of our sister partners, FAM, formerly Families Against Mandatory Minimums, really has a really good link that you're able to go onto. We've had the link in the chat. You can just put in your information and it will take you to like an email that you can just send. You can adjust it as well to make it more personable, and you can send that to your voting officials so that they would understand how important that these bills are. There's also a couple of bills that would change the way bail funds are working in the area. And so we're also asking people just to pay attention. We know there's a lot going on. COVID numbers are rising. People are getting ready for the holidays, but we really want to make sure that people are understanding what is happening, because we do just know, because of how the previous Pennsylvania legislature bills have worked, that we know it's going to be Black and brown folks who are going to be disproportionately impacted. It's going to be Black and brown folks who are going to be forced along these jails, hours and hours outside of their homes and away from their families and their communities, and not having any type of ways or ability to rehabilitate themselves or to change their circumstances is very disheartening. So we're asking the legislature to invest in community, to invest in anti-violence prevention, to invest in housing and safety and mental health support, and to do the things that we know help reduce violence, instead of increasing policing and incarceration. So again, we invite you to go look at the website to get more information, to make an informed decision, and then to contact your legislature, your legislative officials, both your state senators and your state representatives, to tell them to vote no on 1587 and 1590. And in addition, there is also a bill that we just learned would impact the way bail funds operate, and that is 2046. That would force people who pay bail to become bail bondsmen. But of course, mutual aid funds are unable to meet that criteria, because the collective is not an LLC, it's not a business, and so that would then prevent people from bonding out individuals. And we know, again, in Pennsylvania, there have been people who've been innocent, people who have been arrested disproportionately. And we know that when you can't pay your bail and you languish in jail, you face eviction, you face foreclosure, you face termination from employment, you face loss of custody rights, and so many things, in addition to having medical care denied, mental health treatment denied. And so we're really trying to impart the importance of looking toward community to solve issues, and to fight crime, and to build up and to invest in people. And so we ask that you go and look at these bills and contact your legislative officials to let them know that these are not things that are going to make us safe. These are going to do more harm, and to look toward community alternatives. And so that's some of the things that we've been advocating and fighting for. Today, suddenly, there are some other bills that are going to be coming down and be introduced in the next couple of days. So just keep paying attention and following us so we can share this information. And I'll turn it back over to you, Kahari.
Thank you for that, Miracle. In other news, Trump ally Steve Bannon surrendered to the FBI on contempt of Congress charges in the ongoing investigation of the January 6th insurrection. So that's something that folks will be staying tuned to, at least for the next several weeks, if not longer, as the House committee investigating the events of January 6th continue to subpoena former Trump allies, as well as former members of the Trump administration. If Steve Bannon is convicted of contempt of Congress, he could serve 1 to 2 years in federal prison for that. So very, very interesting times. He has refused to answer to the subpoena, and has refused to come before the committee to answer questions about his potential involvement in January 6th, in the January 6th insurrection, and also in what's been watched all over the country in Kenosha, Wisconsin. They're in the closing argument phase of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, which is, has been watched all over the country, if not all over the world. And folks have very, very strong feelings about how, this case how the trial has unfolded, and we will be, watching it extremely closely over the next several days, as the trial continues to wind down. Miracle, do you have any thoughts on the Steve Bannon news, as well as the final stages of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial?
Yes, like I said at the top of the hour, people are really are coming to understand how important the judiciary really is in every aspect of our lives. Because in addition to these two trials, we also have the trial for the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery going on, and so people are really getting a really deep dive uh, course into what is happening in court, what the rules of procedure are. I know when I was in law school, the rules of procedure were like the one subject that I really looked forward to learning, to applying. And so it's going to be very curious to, I'm very curious to see how the Steve Bannon trial is going to go, especially because he is um, pretty much saying he's going to be held in contempt, that he's not going to agree. I mean, literally, all he has to do is go sit down, be interviewed, and plead the Fifth Amendment, which is the amendment that protects you from basically snitching on yourself, putting yourself into harm's way, where you would have to give evidence that would lead to a conviction. Again, this case, what's going on for the January 6th inquiry, for people who may have forgotten, is the House is looking into what basically happened on January 6th, what led up to January 6th. Was this treason? Was this an attempted coup? Was this people really just organically coming together, or was this like a concerted effort between grassroots organizations, far right organizations, elected officials, government officials, with the hopes that people would be harmed, right? We're finding out different information where different leaders had hoped one thing would happen, or that people were targeting certain elected officials, that there was even some active duty police officers who were involved in the uprising. And so this is just an investigation to see what's going on. Just recently, a lot of some of the Trump communications were paused to be released before the committee. The judge said, hold on, those are not going to be released quite yet. So that's happening with the January 6th trial. With the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, a lot of people have been taken aback by how performative the judge has been, and how really lighthearted in some instances the trial has been, despite the precarious situation that happened in Kenosha. 3 people were shot and lost their lives. And what did the police play into this? What did the narrative play into this? What are the rulings of the court that are really going to see if we have a conviction or not? And of course, a lot of people were very shocked that one of the gun charges were dismissed today, based on a finding that the judge said that the length requirement of one of the guns did not meet the criteria for having a dangerous weapon. A lot of people argued and said that was an incorrect interpretation. But we're going to see going forward, when this goes to the jury, what, or even if the case goes to a jury, because the judge can declare a mistrial, or the judge can say that he has found the state has not presented enough information to warrant a conviction, and he can basically similar um, dismiss the charges. And so it's going, like I said, these next couple of days, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And again, to juxtapose what's going on at Kenosha, what's going on in Georgia. The judge has been very open and very transparent with his rulings, has said that he has found that there has been racial biases in some of the processes and procedures going on the trial, but he's allowing the trial to go forth, and he's understanding that there are some questions that are going to have to be answered later on about the way this trial has been run so far. So it's going to be a very stressful situation. On top of that, in a couple of weeks, the officers that murdered Atiana Jefferson are supposed to be going on trial in Texas. And so this is going to be like an ongoing cycle for like for a lot of communities in the next couple of weeks because these court cases are not going away.
Thank you for that, Miracle. Yeah, and as you said, there has been a lot of focus on Judge Schroeder as well as the motion today, that the decision, that was the ruling rather, that one of the gun charges was thrown out, which you mentioned, that raised a lot of eyebrows, and then obviously in the trial, is for, around the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. There's been some focus on some statements made by the defense in reference to the black pastors. There was a motion for a mistrial today on the grounds of attendance of various prominent African American pastors from Al Sharpton. Today, Jesse Jackson attended, and the defense tried to make a motion to have a mistrial, basically due to Jesse Jackson's appearance in court, and made a statement that was covered, all over the country, that it seemed to even shock people that were standing right next to him in the courtroom, saying like he didn't want to see any more black pastors attending the trial, and felt that it was poisoning the jury pool, so to speak, and influencing them in an unfair way, which raised a ton of eyebrows, even the eyebrows of the folks that were sitting right among him in that courtroom. So yes, we are in a very, very interesting time, when it comes to high profile legal cases that intersect with race and justice, law enforcement, vigilantism, all that, all which has a very, very long history in this country. I'm currently not reading, but listening to on Audible, the People's History of the Civil War. I'm a big Civil War aficionado, so to speak, and I definitely suggest folks read that, because wow, like, you sometimes look at some of these current situations and think that, oh, the world is crazy right now, and I can't believe this happened. But if you read or listen to a People's History of the Civil War, almost on a daily basis, particularly in that 4-year period that the Civil War happened, the level of vigilantism, the level of people taking action, much like a Kyle Rittenhouse, much like the murders of Ahmaud Arbery. We This is nothing new. These kind of actions is nothing new. It is kind of embedded into the DNA of our country. People are taking action in this way, from the New York City draft riots, um, to riots throughout the South, that were pro-union, anti-union. It was just a very, 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 very volatile time in this country, and I think those are the periods of time that we could look back to, for guidance and for understanding about how can we avoid these kinds of things. But I think we tend to kind of wash away that history and hide that history. So when these things come up, we keep thinking that, oh, this is the first time this happened. Where is our country going? Like, what is happening to this country that we think we know so well? But really, these acts are very much in the DNA and the history of our country, at times of great division, at times of very deep social volatility, at times of economic stress.
Yeah, so as I said, there's nothing new under the sun, and I think that it's why it's very important that people learn the history. People talk to their parents and their grandparents and their great grandparents if they're still around, because a lot of these struggles are not anything new. But it's just the fact that people are still surprised that a lot of these battles still have to be fought, still have to go, we still have to go on. But like I said, with reconstruction, a lot of that fight was over elections. A lot of things have happened. It's still a very contentious time, and like you mentioned, and so it's always very interesting when politicians are running for office, when they are trying to have a message of unity and trying to bring people together, when there are very jarring national headlines going on. And so our next guest is going to be one of these politicians, a community organizer, a Slippery Rock graduate who took on the mantle to run for mayor. And just this past week, for the past 2 weeks ago, for the election, was elected to be the first Black person, the first Black woman of her community in Beaver Falls. And so we want to welcome to the program Mayor-elect Kenya Coleman Johns, who's going to talk about, her campaign, her vision for Beaver Falls, how she hopes to bring her community together, the things that she's putting out to help her community succeed. And so, with that, welcome, Mayor-elect Coleman Johns.
Thank you guys for having me. I just want to commend One Hood. I've been to a couple of your events over the years, obviously before COVID, and I just appreciate the work you guys do in the community, and I appreciate you taking the time to have me on here.
Yeah, we're very excited that you are here. So first off, congratulations. You had a very long campaign. You were out there hitting the streets. What caused you to run for office?
So it was a very long campaign, but there was a number of reasons why I ran. I'm a lifelong resident of Beaver Falls. I grew up here. I lived here my whole life. My family's from here. I'm a mother, and I want my kids to want to live here too. And the looks of where our town is currently is not a place that anyone would necessarily previously would have wanted to live. But I think that we're on the right stride and right path to really change that narrative, and we're in a great location. So wanting to create a better community is super important to me. So that's one of the reasons I ran. Another one of the reasons I ran is, like I said, there's this feeling of a division in the country, right? And we feel it in our city as well. And our city is so unique and so vastly different than all the places I've ever been, that the divide that was happening in the world, I don't feel like needs to be a divide that's happening in Beaver Falls. So, I feel like it's important as leadership and those in power, it's our responsibility to help bridge that divide, bridge that gap. It's our responsibility that if our residents aren't feeling heard or seen, that we make them feel seen and we make them feel heard. That's why we're called servant leaders. We're elected to serve. And I just felt like there could have been things done differently and better to better serve our city. And I'm very excited that the city agreed with me, and they're ready to do the work for us to make that happen.
And you took on in the primary, you took on an incumbent. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like, and having to block out the potential noise? It's one thing, you run for an open seat, and everyone, it's kind of a free for all. There's no incumbent. You're not quote unquote running against anybody. You're running for something. But when you take on an incumbent, even though we all said, well, I'm running for something, you are, in essence, running against someone, taking on the establishment, taking on the current power structure. So tell us a little bit about what that process was like, and how you, stuck to your gun, so to speak, and stayed in it and prevailed, in a race that I would imagine when you first, decided to do it, you were not considered the front runner.
Right. Very true. So that's an excellent question. It's a very layered question. I'll say that. So running in itself is very challenging. It is very challenging to put yourself out there and run for a position, especially when it comes to a city mayor or things like that. Because it's a little different. You're in the front seat. In my county, there's only 2 technical cities, and we're one of them. We're very well known because we're the last stop before you get to Ohio, and we're only 45 minutes from the city of Pittsburgh. So we're easily accessible to a lot of people. So a lot of people know we're the home of Joe Namath, and we have great sports teams here. So people know about us. So it was really challenging to go against that. And I think running against an incumbent, it really was the fact that, I wanted to run a campaign where I wasn't necessarily running against, although I was, him, but I was running for something better. I was running for something different. I was running for things that we haven't currently had. Community unity, the ability, like I said, to feel seen and heard, collective bargaining, all of the engagement, like the city spoke, right? I allowed the city to tell me what they needed, what they saw, what they felt. And it just so happened that what they needed, what they saw, what they felt were the same things that I wanted to run for. And that's why it was so important for me to do that. And the biggest thing for my campaign is running against someone. I think it's easy for people to like take it personal, right? Like, oh, you're personally going against me. But that was never the intent, you know. Although you might be in that seat, it's not that I'm running against you. I'm just running for the city. And we just have different views of what the city needs in the future of the city. And also, one of the biggest things for this race was I ran with two amazing women that really made going through this process and all of these challenges and all of these hurdles so much better, right? We were able to work collectively. And I really believe in the power of unity and collaboration. And this election was the baseline for that. And it was the baseline for, I think, my success and the success of the city.
Because you won, you got elected, but there are also newer council members. So can you just talk a little bit about why you all had decided to like kind of form this pact, like to run together and to support each other, and what were some of like the benefits to doing that, and how are you now going to navigate not necessarily being at odds with each other, but having like different roles in the future?
Right. And you know what's so awesome about that question is we actually didn't even agree to run together. Our paths and journeys of running were completely separate. Like initially, when I decided to run and they decided to run, we weren't even aware that each other were running. It just so happened, it just so happened that through conversations with people in our city and things like that, we were able to like, oh, so you're running. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation, right? Let's engage. Like, let's see where you're at. Let's see where your thoughts are and what your goals are and what your plans are. And it just so happened that the beauty of us all running is we wanted similar things for the city. We're all community advocates and community organized, and we really want to piece together that unity, building up youth programming, creating better collaboration and connection with our police departments, and just overall engagement, building up businesses, and really rediscovering who we are. And so that was the beauty of us. It was organic, right? It wasn't like this is forced, like we're going to throw all these people together and we're going to make it shake. It was organic, and it shows in the work that we decided to stay together. And I think honestly, some of the beauty of it was going through those hard times and really, on days where you've had a rough day, being able to be like, hey, I know it was rough, but like we got to push forward. It's not about us; it's about what we want for the city. And it's easy for someone that's not sitting in the seat with you to try to give you that word of encouragement, but when someone that's sitting with you, it looks different. And Miracle, you asked a great question, like what it looks like with us being in different roles, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. I hope it requires us to challenge each other, and challenge us to do what's best for the city at all times. And I hope that means that we're going to always, even if we don't agree, we'll always respect each other.
Absolutely, and in the waning days, of the campaign, there was some controversy that made it all the way, to the Pittsburgh media market with State Representative Bernstein, making some very loaded accusations, as well as sending out some very controversial political communication that centered around you and some of the folks that got elected with you a couple weeks ago. You talked a little bit about that, and it clearly it didn't seem to gain much traction. But you just talk a little bit about what happened and how the community responded, because it seems like, at least from where I'm sitting, that the accusations didn't have legs, and the people really didn't respond to it the way Representative Bernstein may have hoped when he hatched this scheme.
Right. So the whole incident overall, I think my work speaks for itself. I'm not in the community for fake, and I'm not in this to be a politician and to win favors. Like, my work speaks for itself. And although they're not accusations, they're lies, because those aren't things that I've said nor done, but the people know me, they see me. they see me in their spaces, they see me at events, they see me engaging, they see me doing the work. Like I'm visible, like I'm not pretend. So when people see that and they hear that, and then like when they know you as a person and they're like, this is completely out of context, from what the post and all that was, completely out of context and just false and just not appropriate. It definitely worked in our advantage. I was so thankful to that enough people knew me and the work that I've done and who my heart is and the things that I want for the city that I didn't even have to say anything about it. They were there. They were riled up. They took the bat for it because they know, this is our city and this isn't the representation we want. And honestly, we want to move forward in a positive space, and living somewhere where it's separating us or bringing any divide, just it's not welcome here anymore. That's not what Beaver Falls is going to do.
Thank you for that. And how, you've gone to this controversy, you've had people rally, around you. How are you going to use that to like bring people together? Because it is a very contentious time, nationally, globally, locally. People are, are scared, people are angry, people are frustrated. And there is a conversation about, a fear of people tapping into anger. So, as this politician who ran this campaign of positivity and unity, how are you looking forward to like galvanizing your support to kind of bring people to this table who may actually fear you or actually may believe what was in these, mailers?
And honestly, that's a great question. And I've actually already began that work. I know I'm not in office. I know I'm mayor-elect, but I think it's important to even now just to begin to break down that false narrative and start allowing people to engage, like reaching out to like, I'm Democrat, so reaching out to Republicans and things like that in my city, just let them know that, our city needs all representations. We need Democrat, Republican, independents, non-registered. We need everybody at the table if we really do want this sustainable change to happen in our city. So having those conversations, continuing to be present, continuing to create opportunities. For example, having commissions with all of our pastors, having a place where all of them can come together and engage and develop camaraderie in the sense, with building some of those divides that might be present in the city, from that aspect. But in addition to do that, having events, right? Having events where we can begin to have conversations with me, begin to know me and know like, hey, when I actually have a conversation with her, all of these false narratives and things that were presented, they're just not true and they're not factual. Having people, my residents, continue to, tell the truth about me. Holding office hours so when residents need something, they can actually access me. They can see me or call me or Zoom me or whatever they need to be accessible, to feel like I'm here for them because I'm here to serve them. And I think as they see that I'm here to serve them and not the other way around, I feel like it'll be an easy conversation and easy shift for the residents.
Interesting. And just looking, at the results, obviously the with folks, who are watching from outside of Beaver Falls may not be aware of that the candidate you defeated in the spring, the incumbent, did appear to have a write-in campaign or have write-in support against you. And it's interesting because in this very similar approach that they did in Buffalo, New York, when African-American woman won the primary, and unfortunately she was not able to overcome, the write-in pushback. So what did you do, in Beaver Falls, as the incumbent, tried to get support from other parties and, and other folks that they may not have reached out to in a Democratic primary, to kind of use the same model that they did in Buffalo, when a young African-American woman won the primary unexpectedly. So what were some of the things that you had to do in the fall campaign to keep, the incumbent from winning, a write-in campaign which actually happened in some cities around the country?
Right. And that's a great question. And it's a fair concern for sure. I think one of the things that I did, really, I think having running mates helped me out tremendously. I think that was great. Another thing that I did is didn't let up, right? Didn't think that just because I had won the primaries that like it was over, right? Continue to remind the citizens every step of the way through conversations, through actions, like it's not over. Like I still need you to show up at the polls even more than you did before. Continuing to make sure people are registered to vote, continue to go out there, going door to door, just continue the grind as if I had lost the primary and I was running a writing campaign. And that was so important. And to continue to show up and then when negative things were appearing, to not make them be the focus of what I wanted to do. Instead of responding to those, just moving forward and pushing forward as if they're there. I'm not going to give them my energy. We're going to continue what our message is and our goal is. And when you see you push through all of that, you see that like I'm serious about this and I really do mean what I say and not just doing lip service.
Yeah, and I know that like election night happens, you get the win, and everybody's like, "You're the first black mayor," all of that. What does that pressure now look like for you, right? Because you're, you're coming. It's I guess the excitement is maybe has died down a little bit, and the reality of being sworn in is like, becoming fast approaching. So what is the pressure that you're feeling, and what is you're looking forward to accomplishing in your first 100 days?
So to be honest, I never really celebrated. I haven't. Life happens and life moves quickly, and I'm action oriented person, so I haven't celebrated because I don't feel like the work that they've elected me to do is done. So I don't think that this calls for a celebration. Like it's great, and I'm very honored to be in this position. I feel incredibly blessed to be here, but the work's not done. I haven't done anything, so I don't get the opportunity to celebrate. When I do some things and the city's moving the way it needs to move, then I can celebrate because then I've done some things. So that's when I'll celebrate.
Yeah, and just look at the numbers. You won, the primary with 54% of the vote. You won the general with 58% of the vote. Which says to me some of the folks that supported, Mayor Quay, in the springtime, came around, and supported you. So what kind of outreach did you do to folks who may have voted against you or didn't vote for you in the Democratic primary to get their support in the general election? Because I'm sure those were some of the folks that Mayor Quay was hoping he could hold on to while he got Republican support and third party support to kind of put together a coalition to maybe overcome the support that you built. So like, what was it like reaching out to folks within the Democratic community in Beaver Falls that may have not supported you initially in the primary?
So that was, like I said, was hitting the ground and still having those conversations, still engaging with the citizens, just letting them know the things that we're going to do. Cause now it's not like what we want to do, it's what we're going to do. And the things that and just being honest with people appreciate honesty. You just got to trust them to have it. I've been very transparent with the whole campaign. Like I might be in the mayor's seat, but the work that needs to be done is going to take every citizen coming to the table to do the work to keep it done. So, and just allowing people to know that they have a space here in the city, they have a role in the city. And not only is it a win for me, me winning in the seat is a win for them, right? It's a victory for the city. It's a victory for the citizens. And when people get to talk to you and they actually hear what your plans are and you actually have a plan, and you have experience to back up your plan, they can get behind that, And I think that that's it. Like showing up, being active, going to events, letting people see you, let them see your presence. It's super important, And I think that's a piece that is lost too. Like after the primaries, I could have easily just took a back seat and acted like, we got this in the bag, we won. And I think that would have not only been a disservice to the citizens, it would have been a disservice to myself. Because if I'm not willing to hit the grind and do the work after the primaries, what am I going to do when I'm in that seat?
I think that's very important when you're talking about like kind of like the show and prove. And so just to back up, you talk about, your plan, you want to get things done first before you celebrate. Day 101 of your, administration, what do you hope you have accomplished?
Say day 101. So by day 101, I hope to have learned, right? I hope to have gained some knowledge and listened to not just the citizens, but the way things have been done, right? I'm not going to reinvent all the wheels, but there's some things that can definitely be changed. So I hope that I've learned. I've hoped that by that point, we have some coalitions starting, at least some meetings beginning to have where people are actually sitting at tables so that we have a long-term plan. I'm hoping by day 101, we at least have a baseline of where we want to go for the trajectory of our city and what we want to be defined as. I hope by day 101, we have a lot of media attention to the positives of our city and all the great things that we're doing. And also by day 101, I want our kids to know who's representing them. I want our kids and citizens to see my face, know who I am, know who all the council members are, know who the city manager are, know who the chief of police is, know who the chief of our fire department is. I want them to see them and know them by day 101. I think that can be accomplished in 101 days.
And did you have any plans to reach out to folks like Mayor-elect Gainey, Mayor-elect Wanda Williams in Harrisburg, and some of the other new incoming mayors throughout the state of Pennsylvania? And do you think it makes sense to maybe create some sort of association, some sort of coalition where you guys can go to Harrisburg and lobby, and fight for issues from the larger cities down to the smaller cities that still fall under various codes? Like, I don't know, does Beaver Falls fall to the city of the third class? Do you know?
So that's two questions. No, it's two questions. So the first question, the second question is the easiest question. Right. Beaver Falls is technically under third class city code, but during our election, the citizens voted for home rule charter. So now it looks a little different. So we're learning that and navigating that. But to answer your first question, yes, I actually already did reach out to Mayor-elect Gainey and some other constituents, and not necessarily just in Pennsylvania. Like the city of Cleveland just had a new Black mayor emerge, and just trying. And I know Mayor Marita trying to build those networks and I've reached out to a few of them and just trying to build that up. I know everyone's busy right now. It's holiday season, so I'm sure that that's going to happen, because I think that that's an imperative that we do that. Because, there's power in numbers. There's power in us working together collaboratively. There's power in us sharing resources. And I think that we're all so close together that there's enough for us to share.
Right.
That's good. And I know you talk about a little bit about the home rule charter. We also know that the redistricting is happening Commonwealth wide. Have you gotten any information about how that would impact Beaver Falls? Do you expect that your district would grow, or are you expecting Beaver Falls to be reduced in size? Has anyone had any conversations with you about that?
So I try to stay very up to date and active on that. So I watch a lot of our U.S. Census data. I know for our city overall, we've gained residents, which is great because we're one of the few in Western Pennsylvania to actually gain citizens in our city. So kudos to all the work to get that to happen, for sure. And I'm hoping to have that even more, because our city's awesome and there's a lot that it offers. But depending on our county, we either could lose the seat or it will stay the same. I'm actually happy for redistricting, because I think that the way it will be redistricted, the population will be more representative of my citizens. And I think that's important, right? To have someone that we don't share the same concerns or the same values or opinions. So a representative can't really represent us if they don't know us nor really care about our concerns, because it doesn't impact them. So I think that is imperative for us.
That's right. That's very interesting. And could you talk about what you see are some of the ways that Beaver Falls can continue its rebound? Like you just talked about, it was one of the few cities that was a very interesting tidbit you just gave us, that Beaver Falls is one of the few cities in Western PA's gained population. And then we all know the history of Beaver Falls. Actually, my father's from Newcastle, so I'm very familiar with that neck of the woods, and with the
time to come back. We need more residents.
Okay. And I went college with a bunch of folks from Beaver Falls, Aliquippa, New Brighton, Sharon Farrell, all through that greater area. With the loss of industry, as we all know, obviously Beaver Falls used to be a big, like you said, Joe Namath, and all that. What do you see are some of the ways economically, and some of the types of industries or businesses that you would like to bring that you think would be good fits, for Beaver Falls to continue its economic rebound?
So that's a great question. I think that Beaver Falls is a diversity hub of Beaver County, like with no question. If you look at our U.S. Census data, we have the most diverse population out of any city in our county. So I think that that's an imperative notion right there. We're open to collaboration and community engagement. You look at our history of events and things that we've done, collaboration and community is neck and neck. We're open to more diverse businesses coming in. So even if it's not here, I'm very open to bringing it there. We need more entertainment and engagement for our adult population. So those will be highly appreciated. Also, we need entertainment and engagement for our youth as well, because, we want to maximize their time, their ability to be educated. We have the Beehive coming in, which is going to be an educational, like a network that's going to be amazing. We have the Portobello project that's coming, and I think that's going to be such an asset to our city. But, we're so open to more restaurants, ways to engage and just reshape our city. And I think that we're in such a great place that we're so open to what it might look like, that there's a space for all types of industry, especially like IT industry, gaming industry, you name of it. If it makes sense for our city, we're definitely open for it.
Yeah, and for people who've never been to Beaver Falls, can you just talk? You talked about the growing population. We know that there are, a lot of people are moving, going back and forth. Just talk about some of the cool places that you like at Beaver Falls, and people should definitely go in and stop through and support.
So there's a number of great businesses here. For instance, Buttermilk Falls is at the cusp of the turnpike in the city, but it's all wood, it's all woods, it's all nature, it's beautiful. Like, you're not gonna find any other place like that, especially in a city such as Beaver Falls. We have great businesses and shops downtown. You have Vintage Reborn, you have Cash Out, which is a clothing brand. You have Sheree's, which is a restaurant. You have Mississippi Chicken Shack, which is a restaurant. You have a Quality Time. Times there's a lot. Sorry, I'm getting a little nervous. I want to make sure I'm talking about everybody, but then It's like, oh, you don't forget anybody. Well, there's a ton of businesses in our area. We have like Minuteman Press, which does a lot of Photoshop and like printing services. We have social services like Trails Ministries that do a lot of those. We have Enlo's, which is another like shoes and clothing store. We have pawn shops, we have gaming shops, we have restaurants like Athens, and we have sports bars like Evergreen and Breeze Tavern. I could go on and on. Like, we really are super diverse, and we really have a little bit of everything. There's not much that you can't find here. Like Wolf's Clothing. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. We have Tiger Paws, where they have furniture banks and furniture stores, but they also have cafes. I'm just going up and down the street. We have lots of stores. Like, we have a lot here. You just gotta be willing to come down here and go a little bit north of Pittsburgh, but you'll find us and you'll fall in love with the community. And that's what happens. People come here. They see the people. They see the community. They see that this is an experience that Beaver Falls offers that you're not going to get anywhere else. And that's why they stay.
Now, thank you for that. And I was just, taking a quick gander at State House District 10, as you mentioned, and it is a very curious design, to the district, how it kind of meanders through that part of the state, and then kind of catches, Beaver Falls right at the very end. While there's obviously like Ambridge, Aliquippa, are extremely close, and I know. Representative Mati, in Aliquippa, has that district, but it would be interesting to see, how that district will be redrawn, in a way that may potentially more so reflect, because it has that part where it goes all the way up to Slippery Rock,
right,
and then goes to the Ohio line, which makes it interesting. So, from your perspective, if you could draw the map, how would you like to see, that District 10, drawn in a way that's more reflective, of Beaver County and the communities that you represent?
So it would be, if I had a magic pencil and a magic pen, I would make sure that we have Koppel and Big Beaver a part of our line and district, because their kids go to our schools. They're our kids, not even theirs. Our kids go to the same schools. We pay the same taxes, and we're the same community. So I think it's important that we incorporate them, because they're a part of the city. Although I might not be the mayor of them, they're a part of the city, and I find them as very valuable residents. all the way down to Aliquippa and Ambridge. Let's just keep Beaver County into one. You know, we share a lot of the other things. I think that we can use that. I'm not even opposed to being part of parts of Pittsburgh, because I think there's a lot of resources that come to Pittsburgh that could definitely be utilized in Beaver Falls. And I'm hoping to work closely with Mayor-elect Gainey to get some more utilization of that. And we know with the funding coming in, with the infrastructure bill passing, Beaver Falls needs to be a part of that conversation. We're right on the cusp of Ohio. We're at the turnpike. We are the turnpike. I can get to Pittsburgh because I went to Duquesne for a number of years. I can get to Pittsburgh in 35 minutes. We are close, you know, and we need to be part of the conversation. And I think that it's important that we begin to build that bridge, and it not being us versus them in Western Pennsylvania, and it's just all of us.
Right. Thank you.
You know, which makes sense. And our next to last question, as you take on, you know, becoming mayor, what are some of the things that you're looking to do? Because I know, like, you've talked a lot about like youth advocacy and the future for youth and like your campaign. What are some of the things you're hoping for that specific population to do as mayor?
So that's a great question. And there's a number of things for sure that I want to do. One of the first things, I'm really hoping that with this infrastructure bill and all of this funding coming in, that we can create a youth center in Beaver Falls. We have the space, we have the need, and like I said, our location being how close it is to the turnpike and other cities, and the accessibility of our town, it would do so much good here. And so creating a youth center would be great. So if anyone watching that wants to help fund that, please contact me. Another big thing I want to do with them is job retention, getting them in programs like our community college at Beaver County. There's a lot of programs that they can do for trade, or at least getting their baseline gen eds out for undergrad classes. So if you wanted to go the education route, I want you to be able to make it accessible. Going to our local colleges like Penn State Beaver or Geneva College, utilizing those resources in partnership like with the Beehive is super important. Another big one is really just getting them excited about anything outside of doing nothing, right? Getting jobs, creating families, and wanting to stay here. I think that if anything, that's one of my biggest things that I really want. I want people to want to be here. I want people to graduate high school and not be like, well, I want to move away, or I need to go here. I want them to be excited. Like, you know, I graduated. I'm so excited to be in Beaver Falls and give back to my city and know what they offer and what resources they provide to our city, because we need them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And in One Hood Power Hour tradition, you know, we always end our interviews with the same question. It was a question that Miracle first started asking our guests in 2020.
It's your miracle question.
It's the miracle question, and it is what brings you joy. So just share with us, you know, in this journey that you've taken, you know, this year, you know, what has brought you the most joy as you've made history, you know, as you prepare, you know, to take on, you know, this huge responsibility. You know, what do you look back on and brings you joy when you reflect?
There's so many things. So one of the first things that bring me joy is my family supporting me. You know, just having an ability for my family, my kids, my husband, and all of my siblings to like rally together and like really help make this happen. Another thing that brings me joy is my mom and my sister and my grandma all passed away in this last year. But they all knew that I was planning on running. I was thinking about running. And after experiencing so much grief, I honestly didn't know how I was going to do this. I didn't know if I wanted to do this. But I know, you know, before my mom passed away, her telling me like, Kenya, you got to do this. You're going to do this and you're going to do great at it. And it really brings me joy to know that although she might not physically be here with me, you know, God allowed those words to speak life into me and manifested where I am. So, and honestly, another thing that brings me joy is just the fact that me being the first now means that I'm not going to be the last.
Right. Now, thank you so much, you know, for sharing your story, and also our condolences, you know, to your family, you know, for your loss, and you know, thank you for your courage, you know, in sharing your story and you know, and taking that leap, and trusting yourself, trusting your voice, and making history. So, thank you for joining us. You know, we look forward to continuing this conversation, particularly once you take office. We like to have a full roundtable, with the various history-making mayors, and look forward to following your progress, not only in the months but the years to come. What looks to be a very bright political future.
And I appreciate that. And I very much thank you guys for reaching out to me. And if there's anything I can do to work collaboratively with you guys or anyone else, I'm always open to that, because I think we all have something we can always learn. So thank you guys again for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that is Kenya Johns, the mayor-elect of Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, the history-making, the first African-American female mayor of Beaver Falls. And yeah, it's a miracle. That was another fantastic conversation as we continue our conversations with our history makers. And tonight it was Kenya Johns, and we'll look out, to see who's going to be joining us next Monday. It's kind of a downtime, so we're reaching out to folks, and folks are in the middle of transition, so sometimes it takes a couple of days, for us to make these confirmations and get the information out. But just stay tuned. We'll be back, Monday night. So, Miracle, do you have any reflections, any thoughts before we leave, or any announcements? There's a lot going on this week.
There is a lot going on this week, so we will be remiss to not mention this is Trans Awareness Week. We understand that there is a lot going on within the country. We know that people are grieving the loss of one of our trans siblings, Angel Niera, that happened this week in Aliquippa. And so we want to just encourage people to stay mindful and open, and just, lead with love. When we're going out here, we're having these conversations and we're talking about people's lives. Just be aware of that. Another thing is, the COVID-19 numbers are coming back up. So just remind people to wash your hands, practice social distancing, and engage, and just, look out for one another. Not everyone feel comfortable getting vaccinated. We understand that, but still try to take precautions, and just to keep you and your family as safe as you possibly can. But we talked a lot about what's happening, but we have some really great programming coming up for you this week. Tomorrow we have on What Black Listeners Know. We're going to be talking about gentrification. We know some of you have seen those for sale, buy here, signs going up, and at people talking about buying property. We also know that a lot of corporations are now becoming landlords. And so we want to have a conversation about what that actually means for you as a renter, for you as a homeowner, for you as a landlord. So please tune in to What Black Pittsburgh Needs to Know, Tuesday at 2:00. Wednesday, we're always back at it with This Week in White Supremacy. And Thursday, we kind of have a 2 for, actually a 3 for on Thursday. On Tilt, that's our mental health conversation that goes on at noon, at 12 p.m. with Mama Brown and Julius Boatwright. So please, tune in. It is Men's Health Month. So tune in to get some good tips about maintaining your mental health. This daylight savings got helped a lot of us, but harmed a lot more of us. So, please just tune in to learn some tips and tricks and things to combat, seasonal affective disorder. But also, we know that there's some things going on in Wilkinsburg about the merger. So we do have an in-person event going on at the Hosanna House at Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. ASL support will be provided. This continues to be a listening session, a conversation. People for and against the annexation will be there. So please make sure you sign up to be on the list. Wear your mask. But also, like I said, COVID-19 is coming. We still are in flu season. We know people have questions about COVID-19, flu, diabetes. Some people have had some health declines during this time. So we're going to have Ask a Black Doctor. This is a time for you to talk to the doctors, yourself, ask questions. Since Jasiri is hosting at the Wilkinsburg conversation, I will be filling in for him for this Thursday for Ask a Black Doctor. So please let us know what questions you have, what comments you have, anything that's going on that you're not really sure about. We'll have these great doctors here for you, and then enjoy the rest of the week. On Friday, there'll be a lot of observations for Transgender Day of Remembrance. So please make sure you follow back and some of the organizations that you can support. Will be out here all week. Again, I saw snow flurries today. I cried a little bit because I wasn't ready for the snow, but the winter is here. Winter is, is no longer coming. It is here. So please make sure you're warm. Please make sure you call your utility companies if you're having some issues with COVID-19 and other situations, to make sure you're able to stay housed and stay warm this winter. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you to Kahari to take us out.
Yeah, I just had one other announcement. I don't know the exact time and location, so Miracle maybe help me. I know there is a strike this Thursday that SEIU and other allies are planning for the healthcare workers. I don't know, Miracle, you have any details on that? I didn't want to leave without mentioning that. Do you have any details on that?
I do. I believe they may be striking downtown because they have been unable to really get their demands met about safety precautions, extra days, and yes. So this week, November 18th, starting at 3 p.m., that's also Thursday, seems to be the day for events in Pittsburgh. But at the UPMC headquarters, which is 600 Grant Street, downtown Pittsburgh, people are going to be going on strike. They are alleging that the UPMC has engaged in, union interference, has refused to, in good faith, negotiate with them and meet some of their demands. At the time, we are in this COVID-19 crisis. A lot of people are utilizing healthcare more now than ever before. A lot of healthcare workers, feel that they have, are exhausted. And they're underpaid. They don't themselves have adequate healthcare. And so they are going on strike. It'll be Strikesgiving. But starts at 3 p.m. right outside UPMC downtown. So I say, if you want to come and support, come and support. They'll be striking. I do not know if they'll be marching or rallying yet. So you may need to make alternative arrangements for travel for Thursday. But yes, Thursday at 3 p.m. UPMC is going on strike. UPMC workers are going on strike.
And along those lines, right as we close out, I did want to mention along those lines. This past weekend, as Miracle knows, I was in New York City with my wife for the screening of Inhospitable, which is a documentary film. We have the link to the film's website in the comments section. But Inhospitable is a film that uses the current situation with UPMC and the space that UPMC takes up locally as a metaphor for a critique on the healthcare industry in the United States, and using UPMC as kind of the case study of much of the challenges we face as a society dealing with Americans' broken healthcare system. And there's many people that you will be very familiar with that are featured in the film, from my wife, Chelsea Wagner, her role as controller, advocating for UPMC patients, to State Representative and Congressional Candidate Summer Lee, to State Representative Sarah Innamorato, to State Representative and Mayor-elect Ed Gainey, are all featured in this full-length feature documentary, Inhospitable. Look out for national distribution at some point soon. Look out for special screenings in Pittsburgh soon. It was a very, very powerful story following three people three families more so, who were impacted by the situation that many folks were facing before the consent decree and the agreement between Highmark and UPMC. But these were three folks who had Highmark insurance, but were going to UPMC hospitals and were facing the challenges with their insurance may not being accepted, and all the challenges they had to face. All three were cancer patients, and very, very powerful, heart-wrenching stories of the challenges folks face just trying to stay alive, just trying to stay healthy. There is ways, if you go on NYC DOC, NYC Doc, It was featured again in the New York City Documentary Film Festival. There's also a very powerful film about the Tree of Life tragedy also in that same documentary series. Or you could go up to New York between now and the 28th of November and check out the films as well. But it was very, very moving. And Bethany Hallam is also featured in that. So you will see a large train of people that you know from Pittsburgh and a lot of places that you'll be very familiar with, because this is focused on Pittsburgh and it's being used as a way to engage national leaders in DC on things like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this film, what streaming service picks it up. I know they're trying to figure out, is it going to be Apple? Is it going to be Netflix? They're all, working on that right now, and has a very, very bang up team. The producer, who usually does feature films, was actually the producer of the Oscar winning film Moonlight. So this is a very, very, very serious operation. The team was very serious. This is a very big deal. It's like, no disrespect to, folks, who do a documentary on their iPhone. This was not on an iPhone. This was something that you're going to see on Netflix or somewhere else in the very near future. So, check out the link and go to NYCDOC or hit us up so you can find out. Lisa Frank from SEIU shot me a link. If I can find that link, I will post it as well. How you can actually view the film, like on your phone or on your computer, over the next couple of weeks while it's at the New York Documentary Film Festival. So I did want to shout that out, given we had just mentioned, the strike coming up on Thursday, very apropos. And with that, we're going to close out this week's edition of the One Hood Power Hour. Again, thank you so much to Mayor-elect Coleman Johns from Beaver Falls for joining us, and the best of luck. And stay engaged, stay in tune, and look forward to seeing you next Monday. This was the One Hood Power Hour, signing off for Miracle Jones. This is Kahari Moses. Have a great night.